Every birthday holds a moment you never forget. But on this night, at Belly's dinner table, it wasn't the cake, the candles, or even the laughter that made it unforgettable. It was the person who wasn't there yet. The room glows with soft golden light, the kind of warmth that makes even the simplest evening feel special. A long table is set with plates, glasses, and flickering candles. The gentle hum of voices fills the air, a mix of laughter, teasing, and familiar chatter that only happens when family and close friends gather. At the center of it all sits Belly, her cheeks flushed with excitement and the glow of being celebrated. Tonight is her birthday dinner, and everyone is here for her. Around the table, conversations flow easily. Stephen cracks a joke, making Laurel laugh until she nearly spills her drink. Jeremiah leans in with a playful grin, always ready to keep the spotlight on Belly, tossing her comments that make her blush and roll her eyes at the same time. The evening feels alive, warm, effortless. Almost perfect, almost, because beneath Belly's smile, there's a tiny flicker of something else. A glance she can't help but cast toward the door now and then. Her friends and family don't notice it, but the audience does. It's a quiet signal that someone is missing. Someone she's been thinking about more than she'd like to admit. Her heart knows it before her mind even dares to say the name. The candles on the table sway lightly as if in rhythm with her unspoken thoughts. The plates clink, forks scrape gently against china, and the sound of laughter grows louder, covering the silence of the one chair that remains empty. For Belly, the room is full, but it doesn't feel complete. Her mother leans across the table, smiling at her. "You're glowing tonight," Laurel says, and Belly laughs, brushing off the comment. It's true, there's a lightness about her, but there's also something waiting underneath. A sense that this birthday could change everything. As the voices continue to rise, the camera of our story lingers on Belly's face, her laughter, her stolen glances, her quiet anticipation. It's the kind of anticipation that doesn't need to be spoken aloud. Because in stories like this, what matters most is not what's said, but what's felt, and so the evening begins warm, lively, and just slightly unfinished. The dinner carries on with all the familiar rhythms of celebration. Plates pass from hand to hand, bowls filled with roasted vegetables and golden rolls moving in a circle. Glasses clink together in small toasts, and the sound of forks tapping against plates creates a gentle background chorus. From the outside, it is an ordinary birthday dinner, happy, bright, and whole. But if you look closer, there's a quiet thread running through the room, pulling at the edges of Belly's joy. She laughs when Jeremiah whispers something silly in her ear, the kind of inside joke that only the two of them would understand. She smiles when Stephen tells another exaggerated story, watching everyone roll their eyes at his dramatics. She even leans into her mother's warmth, feeling the comfort of being surrounded by the people who love her most. But still, her eyes betray her. They wander. They flicker toward the doorway again and again, almost like a habit she can't shake. It's not obvious at first. To anyone else, she is simply the star of the night, glowing in the soft light of the candles. But beneath that glow, a question hovers. A question that grows heavier with each passing moment. Will he come? The chatter rises and laughter swells, yet Belly drifts in and out of it all. Sometimes her smile lingers just a little too long, as if to cover the space in her mind where doubt begins to form. Every time the door creaks or a chair shifts, her pulse quickens just a little. The tension is invisible to the others, but to her it's alive, buzzing like electricity under her skin. Jeremiah, ever the entertainer, taps his glass and declares another toast. "To Belly," he says, grinning wide. "The best sister, the best friend, the best everything." The table erupts in cheers, and Belly blushes, hiding her face for a second. She feels loved, deeply loved. And yet, in the pit of her stomach, there's a longing that all the cheers in the world can't fill. For a moment, the conversation dips, like the tide pulling back before the next wave. It's the kind of pause that makes silence louder than noise. In that brief hush, Belly's gaze slips again toward the door. The camera lingers there too, showing not just her hope, but her fear that maybe he won't walk in at all. The others pick up where they left off, the hum of conversation rising once more. Stephen argues playfully with Jeremiah about who got Belly the better gift. Laurel interrupts, telling them both to calm down before they knock over the cake. Everyone laughs and the moment of silence is forgotten, at least for them. But for Belly it lingers like a shadow. The air feels thicker now, as though the unspoken expectation has taken a seat at the table itself. And the more time passes, the more the weight of it grows. Belly tries to shake it off. She throws her head back in laughter. She focuses on the sparkle of the candles. She leans into the warmth of her family, but nothing can stop that pulse inside her chest. The room is alive with joy, but her anticipation is louder than the celebration. It beats with every flicker of the candles, with every glance at the door, with every pause in conversation that makes her heart leap. She doesn't say his name. She doesn't have to. The silence says it for her, and so, beneath the glow of her birthday, a quiet tension builds. One that no one else seems to notice. But for Belly, it's the only thing that matters. Asterisk, the sound of laughter is cut by something small. Barely noticeable at first, a shift, a hush, the faint creak of the front door. For a heartbeat, no one reacts. The clatter of silverware, the chatter, the bursts of giggles all continue. But Belly hears it. She always would. Her head lifts, almost instinctively, her eyes darting toward the sound. And then, just like that, the entire room feels different. The door swings open, slow, unhurried, as though time itself is stretching out the moment. A figure steps into the glow of the dining room lights. Conrad, not loud, not flashy, not even smiling fully, just him. Standing in the doorway with that familiar air of hesitation, like he's not sure if he belongs. And yet, his very presence steals the air from the room. Voices falter. Stephen's joke cuts off mid-sentence. Jeremir's grin freezes. Laurel's expression softens with a kind of quiet relief. The energy that had been bouncing so freely around the table now sinks into stillness. It's not awkward, not exactly. It's something heavier, richer in awareness of all the history walking in with him. Belly stares. Her breath catches, though she doesn't realize it. She had imagined this moment all evening, imagined what she'd feel if he showed up. But imagination never comes close to reality. Seeing him there, framed by the doorway, carries a weight that shakes her. Conrad steps forward, his movements careful, deliberate. He doesn't speak right away, and that silence speaks louder than any words could. His eyes flick briefly across the table, meeting Jeremir's guarded gaze, Laurel's calm nod, Stephen's narrowed look. And finally they rest on Belly. The air between them hums. For a split second, the whole dinner blurs away. No candles, no laughter, no clinking plates. Just the two of them, locked in a silent exchange, their history pressing between every heartbeat. He clears his throat softly, almost as if to break the weight of the moment. "Happy birthday, Belly." His voice is low, steady, carrying something unspoken beneath it. The room exhales all at once, but Belly doesn't move, not yet. Her lips part, but no words come. Instead, she just looks at him, surprised, relieved, and unsure all at once. Jeremir shifts in his seat, the tension crackling as he forces a grin. "Look who decided to show up." His words are playful, but there's a sharp edge underneath. The kind Belly hears even if no one else acknowledges it. Conrad doesn't respond, at least not directly. Instead, he lifts a small box in his hand, wrapped simply. Not flashy, just thoughtful. He places it on the table in front of Belly. "For you." The gesture is simple, but the room feels it. Everyone does. Jeremir leans back in his chair, his jaw tight, but he says nothing. Laurel smiles faintly, watching the exchange without interfering. Stephen mutters something under his breath, trying to cut the tension, but it doesn't land. Belly stares at the box, then back at Conrad. Her heart pounds, every beat echoing louder than the voices around her. She whispers, almost too softly to hear, "Thank you." Their eyes meet again, and in that moment, the birthday candles seem to burn brighter, their glow reflecting in her eyes. The noise of the dinner slowly resumes, chatter rising once more, but the atmosphere has changed. Everything feels heavier, deeper, charged with emotions no one dares to name. Conrad has joined the dinner, but what he's really brought is something much larger: unfinished stories, unspoken feelings, and the promise of moments yet to come. And as Belly sits there, her gift in front of her, his words still lingering in the air, she realizes the night is no longer just about cake and laughter. It's about something that could change everything. The table comes alive again. Voices weaving back into conversation, but the rhythm has shifted. Where laughter once spilled freely, now it comes in smaller bursts, softened by the weight of Conrad's arrival. The air holds something fragile like glass, sparkling yet easy to shatter. Belly's fingers brush against the small box in front of her. She hasn't opened it yet, but just the presence of it feels heavier than all the other gifts stacked at her side. It isn't wrapped in glittering paper or tied with ribbons. It's plain, understated, and somehow that makes it louder. She traces the edge of the box absent-mindedly, her mind not fully on the voices around her. Every sound, the clink of a fork, the scrape of a chair seems to fade against the beat of her own heart. Conrad sits a few seats away. Not at the head of the table, not in the spotlight. He doesn't demand space, but his presence bends the atmosphere toward him anyway. He watches the table quietly, his eyes occasionally meeting Laurel's calm approval or Jeremy's thinly veiled irritation. But mostly, they find their way back to Belly, each time their eyes meet. The rest of the room falls away. Jeremy leans closer to Belly, whispering something about the cake, trying to pull her attention back to him. She smiles politely, laughs even, but the depth of her gaze is elsewhere. She feels caught between two worlds, the safety of what she knows and the pull of what she's always tried to deny. Laurel stands, cutting through the tension with gentle authority. "Time for cake," she says, carrying the layered dessert to the center of the table. Candles flicker to life, casting warm light across every face. The glow dances across Belly's features, painting her in gold. Everyone begins to sing loud, playful, off-key, a chorus only family and friends can create. Belly forces herself to focus on it, on their love, their joy. But even as she smiles and laughs, she feels another set of eyes holding her steady. She closes her own eyes, makes a wish, and blows out the candles. The smoke curls into the air, twisting and vanishing, leaving behind only silence. For a breath, the room is still. Her wish lingers inside her chest, unspoken, but heavy with meaning. Plates of cake are passed around, chatter rising once more. Stephen makes another joke. Jeremy takes the first bite with exaggerated delight. Laurel beams with quiet pride. It almost feels normal again. But then Conrad speaks, softly, not to the room, but to Belly. "I'm glad I made it." Just 7 words, simple, but they cut through the noise like a tide pulling everything else back. She looks at him and the rest of the table fades. In his eyes she sees all the summers behind them, the beach, the laughter, the heartbreak, the almosts and the not quites. And she sees the possibility of something that still hasn't been decided. Her lips curve into a small smile, one she doesn't even mean to show. It isn't loud, it isn't dramatic, but it's real. And in that moment, she realizes this night will be remembered not for the gifts or the cake, but for the look they share across the table. A look that holds more than words ever could. The conversations swell again. Laughter returns, the room filling with warmth once more. But for Belly and Conrad, the world has shifted, quietly, permanently. The birthday dinner is just a dinner to everyone else. But to them, it is something else entirely, an unspoken turning point. The candles burn lower, the plates empty, the night slowly winding down. Belly leans back in her chair, her heart still racing. Conrad glances her way one last time, a faint smile tugging at the corner of his lips. No promises, no declarations, just a simple acknowledgement of something neither of them can name. And as the screen fades, the narration lingers. Sometimes it isn't the party or the presents you remember. Sometimes it's the moment you didn't see coming. The moment that changes everything.